The signal came through the Deep Space Monitoring Station at exactly 14:27 Galactic Standard Time. Lieutenant Sarah Chen was halfway through her coffee when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. "What the hell?" she muttered, nearly spilling the hot liquid on her console. The main screen lit up with incoming data streams, each one more urgent than the last. "Multiple distress signals detected," announced the AI system in its annoyingly calm voice. "Origin, Kepler 442 system. Message content, emergency evacuation request." Sarah's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up the transmission details. Kepler 442 was home to the Zephyrian colony, a peaceful race of blue-skinned humanoids who had established diplomatic relations with Earth just 5 years ago. They were known for their advanced agricultural techniques and gentle nature. The message itself was brief and desperate. "Help us. They came from nowhere. Ships burning. People dying. Please send help immediately. We cannot fight them alone." Sarah immediately patched the signal through to Earth Command. Within minutes, Admiral Rebecca Martinez's face appeared on the emergency communications screen, her expression grim. "How many survivors are we looking at, Lieutenant?" the Admiral asked without preamble. "Unknown, ma'am. The colony had approximately 2 million inhabitants last census. We're receiving scattered transmissions from different parts of the planet, but they're getting weaker." Admiral Martinez nodded grimly. "Any identification on the attackers?" "Negative. The Zephyrians only described them as shadow ships that appeared without warning. From what we can piece together, the attack began 6 hours ago." The Admiral was quiet for a moment, then her jaw set with determination. "Prep the Crimson Battalion for immediate deployment. And, Lieutenant?" "Yes, ma'am." "Tell them they're authorized for full combat protocols. No mercy." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The Crimson Battalion wasn't just any military unit. They were Earth's most elite force, recruited from special operations units across the globe. These weren't soldiers who came home and talked about their missions at dinner parties. They were the ones you sent when you wanted something completely eliminated. 2 hours later, the UES Retribution dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display. What he saw made his blood run cold. 3 Zephyrian orbital stations were nothing but debris fields. The planet's surface showed dozens of impact craters where major cities used to be. And moving through the wreckage like hungry sharks were 12 massive vessels unlike anything in the Earth military database. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm picking up approximately 40 smaller craft conducting what appears to be systematic bombing runs on the remaining population centers." Captain Morrison's hands clenched into fists. "Any sign of Zephyrian resistance?" "Minimal. Their defense grid was taken out in the first hour. I'm detecting a few scattered fighter squadrons, but they're being hunted down." "And survivors on the surface?" "Unknown. Heavy interference from the bombardment is blocking detailed scans." Morrison turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all battalion units." The bridge fell silent as Morrison activated his headset. Throughout the ship, 200 of Earth's deadliest soldiers listened to their captain's voice. "Crimson Battalion, this is Morrison. What you're about to see down there isn't just an invasion. It's genocide. These bastards aren't just taking territory. They're exterminating every living Zephyrian they can find." He paused, letting that sink in. "The Zephyrians called for help. They trusted Earth to answer. Today we show these attackers why that trust was well placed. No prisoners unless they surrender immediately. No mercy for anyone who's harmed civilians. These people came to the wrong neighborhood." The ship's AI announced successful target locks on 6 enemy vessels. Morrison smiled grimly. "All batteries, open fire. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth's allies." The Retribution's main guns lit up space with brilliant flashes of coherent energy. The first enemy ship, caught completely off guard, exploded in a massive fireball that lit up half the system. The others immediately changed course, abandoning their bombing runs to face this new threat. "Sir!" Torres called out excitedly. "I'm getting responses from Zephyrian survivors on the surface. They're asking if the cavalry has arrived." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Tell them the Earth sends its regards. And Torres?" "Yes, sir." "Launch all fighter squadrons. These shadow ships are about to learn why humans are considered the most dangerous species in the galaxy when someone threatens our friends." The battle for Kepler 442 had begun, and the attackers were about to discover that Earth's military doctrine had one simple rule. You protect your allies at any cost, and you make the enemy regret ever threatening them in the first place. Down on the planet's surface, a young Zephyrian named Kayla huddled in the ruins of what used to be her school. She had been hiding for hours, listening to the terrible sounds of destruction above. When the bombing suddenly stopped, she dared to peek out through a crack in the rubble. High above, bright flashes lit up the sky as unknown ships engaged the attackers. For the first time since the nightmare began, Kayla felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The humans had come. The humans had actually come to help them. The enemy ships moved like predators, sleek and black against the star field. Their technology was clearly advanced, but Captain Morrison had fought worse odds before. What concerned him wasn't their ships. It was their behavior. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called from his station, "the enemy vessels are trying to escape the system. Should we pursue?" "Negative. Our priority is the ground assault team still conducting operations on the surface." Morrison studied the tactical display. "Besides, I want to know what we're really dealing with here." The space battle had lasted only 30 minutes. Earth's superior firepower and tactics had destroyed 8 of the 12 enemy capital ships, with the remaining 4 retreating at maximum speed. But the real fighting was happening on the planet below, where Crimson Battalion had deployed to hunt down the invasion forces still terrorizing Zephyrian survivors. Sergeant Maria Santos crouched behind the twisted remains of a Zephyrian transport vehicle, her tactical display showing heat signatures throughout the ruined city of New Harmony. Her squad of 8 soldiers had been on the ground for 2 hours, and what they'd found made her stomach turn. "Command, this is Santos. You need to see this." She activated her helmet cam and panned across the scene before them. Bodies of Zephyrian civilians lay scattered throughout the streets. But it wasn't random violence. The attackers had systematically targeted schools, hospitals, and residential areas. This wasn't conquest, it was extermination. "Copy that." "Santos," came Morrison's voice through her comm. "What's your assessment of enemy ground forces?" "They're good, sir, really good. Military discipline, advanced weapons, coordinated tactics, but there's something else." Santos moved carefully through the debris, her rifle ready. "They're not human, not Zephyrian, and not any species in our database. I'm sending you biological samples now." Through her suit's collection system, Santos gathered tissue samples from a fallen enemy soldier. The creature was roughly humanoid, but wrong in subtle ways. Too many joints in the arms, skin that shifted color even after death, and eyes that were completely black with no visible pupils. "Received your samples, Santos. Our xenobiology team is analyzing now." Morrison's voice carried a note of concern. "Any indication of their objectives beyond genocide?" "Negative, sir. They're not taking prisoners, not claiming territory, not stealing resources. They're just killing everything that moves." Santos's squad advanced through the city center, following heat signatures that indicated surviving Zephyrians in hiding. They found the first group huddled in the basement of what used to be a library, 12 adults and 6 children, all terrified beyond words. "We're here to help," Santos said, activating her suit's translation system. "We're from Earth. Your government sent us a distress call." An elderly Zephyrian male stepped forward, his blue skin pale with fear. You came?" We thought no one would answer. These creatures, they appeared 3 days ago. No warning, no communication, just death. 3 days? Santos frowned. Earth had only received the distress signal 8 hours ago. Sir, we have a problem. The survivors say the attack started 3 days ago, not 6 hours. Morrison's voice was grim when he responded. That means someone was jamming their communications for 66 hours before we got the signal. This was planned. Santos helped the Zephyrian survivors to safety while her mind raced. An attack this coordinated, with communication jamming and systematic extermination tactics, suggested these weren't random raiders. This was a military operation with a specific purpose. "Movement 2 clicks northeast," called out Corporal Johnson, studying his scanner. "Large group, mixed signatures." Santos checked her own display. "That's a lot of heat signatures for a survivor group. Could be a trap." The squad moved carefully through the ruined streets toward the signal source. What they found defied explanation. A group of 30 Zephyrian civilians was hiding in an underground parking structure. But they weren't alone. 3 of the black-skinned attackers lay dead around them, and 1 wounded Zephyrian held what appeared to be an enemy weapon. "How the hell did civilians take down 3 enemy soldiers?" muttered Corporal Jackson. The wounded Zephyrian, a female with bright green hair, struggled to her feet when she saw Santos's team. "You're the humans? Thank the stars. I'm Dr. Vera Lightweaver, xenobiology specialist." "Doctor, how did you manage to defeat these attackers?" Dr. Lightweaver held up the captured weapon, her expression troubled. "That's what worries me. These creatures are incredibly advanced, but they made basic tactical errors. They entered our hiding place without proper reconnaissance, didn't coordinate their attack, and seemed confused by our defensive positions." Santos studied the dead attackers. "Confused how?" "It's as if they've never fought against people who fight back. Their tactics are perfect for slaughtering helpless civilians, but they don't know how to handle resistance." The implications hit Santos like a physical blow. "You're saying these things are specialized for genocide, not warfare?" "Exactly. They're executioners, not soldiers." Santos immediately activated her comm to Morrison. "Captain, we have a major development. These attackers aren't a military force. They're an extermination unit." "Explain." "Sir, their tactics, their weapons, even their targeting priorities, everything is designed for killing civilians, not fighting soldiers. Dr. Lightweaver here says they seem confused when faced with actual resistance." There was a long pause before Morrison responded. "Santos, if these are specialized killers rather than soldiers, that raises a very serious question." "What's that, sir?" "Who sent them? And who else is on their target list?" Santos felt cold dread settling in her stomach. If these creatures were designed specifically for exterminating civilian populations, then the attack on the Zephyrians wasn't an isolated incident. It was a test run. "Sir, recommendation. We need to capture one of these things alive for interrogation." "Agreed. But Santos?" "Yes, sir?" "Be very, very careful. Something tells me we've just stumbled into something much bigger than a raid gone wrong." As if summoned by his words, Santos's scanner detected new movement throughout the city. Dozens of heat signatures were emerging from hidden positions, more of the black-skinned attackers moving with renewed purpose. "Contact! Multiple hostiles converging on our position!" Santos called out as the first energy blasts lit up the underground parking structure. The real battle for the Zephyrian survivors was just beginning. The underground parking structure erupted in chaos as energy blasts carved through concrete and metal. Santos's squad took defensive positions behind support pillars while the Zephyrian survivors huddled in the center of their formation. "Johnson, take point! Jackson, cover our 6!" Santos barked orders while analyzing the enemy attack patterns. "Dr. Lightweaver, keep those civilians down." The attackers moved with inhuman speed, their black skin shifting color to blend with the shadows. But Santos noticed something crucial. They were advancing in straight lines using textbook suppression tactics that would work perfectly against panicked civilians, but were predictable against trained soldiers. "They're not adapting," she called out to her team. "Same patterns, same approach angles. Take advantage of it." Corporal Johnson flanked left while Jackson moved right, creating crossfire angles the attackers couldn't have anticipated because they'd never faced coordinated resistance before. Within minutes, 5 of the black-skinned creatures lay dead, their exotic weapons scattered across the concrete floor. "Cease fire! I need one alive!" Santos sprinted forward as the last attacker tried to retreat. Her stun weapon caught its center mass, dropping the creature to the ground in convulsions. Dr. Lightweaver approached the captured attacker with scientific curiosity despite the danger. "Fascinating. Look at its neural structure. The head is elongated, suggesting enhanced brain capacity, but the motor cortex appears underdeveloped." "What does that mean in simple terms, Doc?" "They're very smart but not very creative, perfect for following complex orders but terrible at improvisation." Santos activated her comm to Morrison. "Captain, we have a live prisoner and some very interesting intelligence." "Go ahead, Santos." "Sir, these things are basically biological robots. They're intelligent but not creative, trained for specific missions but can't adapt when those missions go wrong. Dr. Lightweaver thinks they're designed for one purpose only, which is exterminating primitive civilizations, species that won't fight back effectively." Morrison's voice was cold when he responded. "You're telling me someone is breeding specialized killers for genocide?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir. And, sir, I think the Zephyrians weren't the target." "Explain." Santos looked around at the devastation surrounding them. "Think about it. Why attack a peaceful agricultural colony? Why use weapons designed for maximum terror rather than maximum efficiency? I think this was a field test." The implications hung heavy in the air. If Santos was right, then someone was testing these creatures against a harmless species to see how well they performed before deploying them against a real target. "Santos, get that prisoner back to the ship immediately. We need answers." 2 hours later, Captain Morrison stood in the Retribution's medical bay watching Dr. Sarah Kim examine their captive. The creature was restrained but conscious, its black eyes tracking movement around the room with unsettling intelligence. "What have you learned, Doctor?" "It's remarkable, Captain. The creature is essentially a perfect biological weapon. Enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes, but with psychological conditioning that makes it incapable of independent thought. It can only follow programmed directives." "Can it communicate?" "Oh, yes. It speaks 12 different languages fluently, including Galactic Standard. But watch what happens when I ask it questions outside its programming." Dr. Kim approached the creature. "What is your name?" The creature's head tilted. "Designation, Harvester Unit 847. "What is your mission?" "Eliminate all biological life forms on designated target worlds." "Who gave you this mission?" The creature's eyes went completely blank. It stopped moving, stopped breathing, and for a moment, Morrison thought it had died. Then it spoke in a completely different voice, mechanical, artificial. "Query outside acceptable parameters. Initiating memory protection protocols." Dr. Kim stepped back quickly. "Captain, I recommend we stop the questioning. Any attempt to access information about its creators triggers some kind of mental shutdown. Push too hard and we might lose it entirely." Morrison studied the creature thoughtfully. "Can you tell us anything about its physiology, weaknesses we can exploit?" "Actually, yes. It's incredibly well designed for killing civilians, but it has some significant vulnerabilities against military targets. Enhanced reflexes but poor tactical reasoning. Superior strength but inefficient movement patterns, and most importantly..." "Yes?" It's completely dependent on external command signals. Cut off its communication with whoever controls it, and it becomes essentially helpless. Morrison smiled grimly. Doctor, you may have just given us the key to defeating these things. He activated the ship's communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We've learned that our enemy is using biological weapons designed specifically for genocide. These creatures are controlled remotely and become ineffective when cut off from their command signals. He paused, gathering his thoughts. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to track down whoever sent these things, and we're going to make sure they never threaten another innocent species again. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Sergeant Santos was leading evacuation operations for the surviving Zephyrians. The final count was devastating. Of the 2 million inhabitants, fewer than 30,000 had survived the 3-day attack. "Sergeant!" called out Dr. Lightweaver as she approached with a datapad. "I've been analyzing the attack patterns, and I found something very disturbing." "What is it?" "Doc? The attackers didn't just target population centers randomly. They systematically eliminated our most intelligent individuals first. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers. This wasn't just genocide. It was designed to prevent any possibility of technological advancement." Santos felt sick. "They were trying to permanently cripple your species." "Exactly. And if they're testing these tactics here, they're planning to use them somewhere else, somewhere with a species they actually consider a threat." The realization hit both of them simultaneously. Earth. Earth was the target. The Zephyrian attack was just practice for the real mission, eliminating humanity before they could become too advanced to handle. Santos activated her comm to Morrison immediately. "Captain, urgent message. Dr. Lightweaver has analyzed the attack patterns. Sir, I think Earth is the real target." Morrison's voice was deadly calm when he responded. "Sergeant, get every survivor aboard the ship immediately. We're heading home." "Sir?" "If someone thinks they can test their genocide weapons on innocent people before coming after Earth, they're about to learn a very hard lesson about human nature." As the Retribution prepared to leave Kepler 442, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge looking out at the devastated planet below. 30,000 Zephyrian survivors were now under Earth's protection, but 2 million were dead because someone wanted to test biological weapons. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed," Morrison ordered, "and send a priority message to Admiral Martinez. Tell her that Earth is about to be attacked. We know how they plan to do it, and we have prisoners who can help us track down whoever is responsible." He turned to address his crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, we answered a simple SOS call asking us to save innocent people. What we found was an act of pure evil designed to test weapons for use against humanity." The bridge fell silent as Morrison's words sank in. "Today, we saved 30,000 lives. Tomorrow, we're going to make sure the bastards who killed 2 million never get the chance to hurt anyone else ever again." The Retribution jumped to hyperspace, carrying survivors, prisoners, and the promise of justice back to Earth. The galaxy's deadliest predators were about to learn why you don't threaten Earth's friends, and you definitely don't use them for target practice.